Hello everyone, Zero Gaming coming at y'all with another video, and in today's video we are talking Union Arena. And I know that I usually do the big pie chart breakdown videos. I have seen in my comments that a lot of people wanted me to cover the tournaments maybe in a little bit more detail and not so many at a time. So what I'm going to do today is we're not doing a pie chart just yet. I do want to give it another 10 days before we do it. Like I said, every 2 weeks seems like a good 2 to 4 weeks, a good time to kind of break down the meta. But what I want to do is, go through the last couple tournaments. I'm going to be going on exburst.dev. That's where you can find all of this tournament results. Now, remember, if you're watching this video and your locals has a tournament, all you have to do is come onto community here, go to tournament results. It'll bring up this tournament page. All you have to do is press post tournament results. It's going to ask you a couple of questions, but you can upload your data on there pretty easy. But I recommend anyone who has the time to do this, please do it, because it does help give the community some information to go off of, right? But I'm going to take the top deck games weekly, the K-Fab locals weekly, the FTW store tournament, and then of course our locals at Omni Cards Collectible Gaming's tournament as well on here. Get these 4 tournaments reviewed, and I'm going to start off with obviously my local game store where we all have a lot of fun at, and that is going to be this Omni Cards Collectible Gaming local Union Arena tournament, because one of my buddies has brought the spice and he indeed did win this tournament with a Zing deck. Greed, this character really cool in the show, really awesome to see. He is a player that loves to break the mold and try to play some things that other people aren't, and do really well with them. He is our Hashira player. Shout out to Aaron for doing so well with this particular deck. I have not been able to, if you want to see us break down this deck profile and maybe, have him give you his thoughts on why he thinks that Zing is such a great play into the meta right now, I can do that. But y'all leave it in the comments. I'm sure he'll comment off on it, and if we can get some comments and likes on the video, we'll do a video kind of like that. I do like watching other people's channels that do that kind of stuff. And our buddy Bradley playing Megumi, getting in 4th place here. I have been preaching that Megumi is a really strong deck, and I'm glad that he was able to show up and do so well in this tournament. Now, we did have, 16 players, but I didn't get, everyone's deck list, and I just had to go through and message people what they were playing. So a lot of this data is not perfect on what everyone played and what the actual results were, but I do have, the 2 main decks I wanted to go over their profiles on here, and we will go over these. But breaking down our local tournament, you can see here we had a lot of blue Full Metal Alchemist players. 3 in the top 8 of this tournament. Now, granted, it was only 16 players, so that is what it is, but 2 of them made the top 4, which is really where I like to break down anything that's 16 or less tournaments. The top 4 is what really matters to me. When I do the pie charts, if it has 16, I take the top 4. If it has 24, I'll take the top 5, just so y'all know when I do those pie chart videos. But in ours here, you can see a lot of Full Metal Alchemists. In Union Arena, that is going to be the case where a lot of players play the newest stuff, and I think that is what's taking place at our locals as well. But no surprise to see, blue Full Metal Alchemists doing so well at our tournaments. 2, 3 of those players all placed really well. I don't think any of the guys that placed down here who dropped in tournaments later on were playing that deck, but the 3 players who were, Wheel, Titan, and Spoon, all did really well with the deck because it is just so powerful. But getting into the deck profile, that is the results for our tournament this past weekend. I'll upload the next week's and go over it for all the guys. I'll try to make this a weekly thing for everyone. So let's keep the attendance high at the tournaments then, right? So coming into his Zing deck list breakdown, let's see what he's got going. I'm going to zoom this in so you guys can see this a little bit better. So let's do it by cost. This is giving out his sauce, but that is okay. You can see here he does have this art for the Zing in the deck, and I know that he plans on trying to bling this out the same way he did his Hashiras. But if you guys don't know what this guy does, right, let's get into it. You can rate it on top of your Lin Xiao, switch to active, move it to the front line. This character gains 1000 BP just permanently as long as he's rated, right? So as long as he's rated during your turn and your opponent's turn, he will be 5k, which is a big threshold to get over for a 6-drop. 6-drops having 5k, we've seen them be very powerful in the game if they stay that 6k on both turns. So that alone is what makes this guy really strong. because into your Mustang matchup, I'm just gonna presuming, you know, I haven't played this matchup. Like I said, if we do a video breaking down this a little bit more, I'm sure he can bring it up on you about what he thinks about it. But just being 5K makes it a lot harder for them to get rid of this body. They're gonna have to waste more of their resources that, you know, are finite, right? Like they can draw cards and replenish their hands in the Roy Mustang deck, but 5K is a big body. And when played, this character gains, your opponent must block this character's attacks if able until the end of the turn. So almost like a pseudo snipe, but not entirely snipe, because it plays more like the Kogias, where you do have to block it. And then it says, when sideline, you may place one card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, play up to one Ling Yao card with 4 or less required energy, and one AP cost from your sideline set to resting onto your field. So if they ever do kill this body, you are able to trash your card in your hand and bring out the character underneath him for free, which is amazing because we'll get into what some of the other ones do. He is running 4 of the Greed, obviously the most important card in the deck. And then one of the Ling Yaos that you want to play is the Color Trigger. This character gains all abilities listed below if you have required amount of energy generation. 6 or more when played, draw up to 1 card. 7 or more when attacking, chooses one other Yin affinity card in your field. It gains, this character cannot be blocked by a character with 4,000 more BP until the end of the turn. So this makes it where your opponent, you know, say it's later in the game, well, surprise, now they can't block you. If you have 2 of these Lings out on the field, if they have all their rated characters, they cannot block these attacks. So it's a pseudo like they can't block this card. And then in tandem with the other Ling, if you have them both on board, you're controlling your board big time, right? Because they have to block this Greed. You can swing with this Ling, make them not be able to block with the 4Ks, and then now this Greed swings in and they have to block with one of those, making your opponent have to be really interested in what they do. But running 4 of the Ling Yao and the Greed in the deck, and then 3 of the Scar. This one does cost you 2 action points. I do want to go into a detail a lot of these cards, since a lot of people probably just don't know what they do, right? Play this character set active on your field, so it costs 2. It's a 4K body. When played, choose it one character on your opponent's front line, switch it to resting. So really good being able to play this guy out. He comes in active, you get to switch something to resting, and then if you have 7 or more energy generation, this character gains 1000 BP and impact until the end of the turn. A 5K impact, tap something down, and then when attacking, your opponent places 2 cards from their sideline on the bottom of their deck in any order. Very interesting here. This does kind of counter the Brothers deck, right? In the game, they kind of want to have those cards in their sideline and other decks, so really cool to see Union Arena bringing in something that kind of counteracts these, you know, in this set, the, you know, Homunculus and the Brothers kind of want stuff in their sideline they can bring out, but you, your opponent gets to place those cards, so it's not like you get to pick, but still a really cool, awesome card here. 3 of the double energy Old Man Fu. While you have 7 more energy, excuse me, he gains 1000 BP during your turn, so another 4K body, but mainly just beat a double energy generation card. This deck really can get to really insane amounts of energy. Getting to 6, 7, 8, sometimes even cases of 9 in the deck are very easy to do, which helps you get, you know, you want to be at 7 to make this Link pop off, because this is really one of the main cards in the deck. 3 energy, 1 action point of the Mei Chang. She does raid on top of Mei Chang. She generates 1 more energy, and when played, if on the energy line, you draw a card. So this is the, I would assume, the most important, one of the most important cards in the deck. This is 4 of this character, because it's 2 alt arts, 2 of the regular. She's going to generate you 3 energy on the energy line, and when you raid her, she replaces herself. So this is like free cycle in the deck, going through and through, keeping your energy high. You have 3 of her out, that's 9 energy. That's insane. That's really crazy. Ling Yao, when played, play up to 1 yellow card with 2 less required energy, 1 AP cost, and Ying Affinity from your hand set to resting onto your field. So this is really, really good, being able to let you get out your Lan Fan, your Mei Chang, all these other characters. Now this doesn't have a trigger, but this card is really, really important, being able to let you swarm the board with all these lower characters. You can see the top end of this deck isn't very heavy, right? But you run a ton, he runs a ton of these lower accounts. Mei Chang, when she's active, double energy generator, 2 of those. A Lan Fan, running 4 of these. He has 2 of the alt arts. This card is really, really cool. This character gains all the abilities listed below if you have the required amount of energy generation. She starts out at 3,000, right? For a 2 energy, 1 action point cost card, that's already really, really strong. And then if you have 5 or more, she goes up to 35. If you have 6 or more, she can't be blocked by characters with 4,000 or more BP. So you really get around your opponent in this deck, being able to swing out. You don't have a crazy amount of ton of instances of impact outside of the Scar, but you make it where your opponents just can't block you, right? So you're not clearing the board, but you are getting through in their life. It's a very strong being able to finish out the game. And then 7 or more when played, you may pay 1 AP if you do switch this character active. This just means that later in the game, she can come out as active as a 3,500 plus BP body, or 3,500 BP body that your opponent cannot block with 4,000 or more. So a lot of times she's just going to be unblockable. Same thing as with the Lean, right? 2 of the Yoki. During your opponent's turn, if on the frontline characters on your field other than Yoki gain, your opponent cannot choose this character with the ability of event card unless they place 1 card from the hand to the sideline. As additional cost, this Yoki ability does not stack. So you have one of these Yokis out and it makes your opponent have to pay. We've seen this before in the Gojo deck for Jujutsu Kaisen having some kind of effect like this. This is really, really cool. Being able to keep your opponent from, if they want to clear your bodies off now, right? You gotta pay for it. Your opponent cannot choose this character with an ability of an event card unless they place 1 card in their hand. So your character effects can still do it, but event cards you're gonna have to pay for it, meaning special triggers you gotta pay for these cards. This is a lot of fun. It's just a searcher for the deck. 3 of this one. 3 of the 0 drop Xiao Mei. This is also a searcher to get the Mei Chang, and then 3 of the 0 drop Mei Chang and 3 of the 0 drop Ling. Very interesting list. Really, really cool. Happy to see him do so well with this deck. Once again, shout out to him for performing so well with this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment. Do y'all believe that Greed does have a place in the game to be one of these decks that can counter meta? I think so. I mean, looking through all the cards now and kind of seeing his deck list, I can get an idea kind of what's going on. You know, just not being able to block your characters is really, really strong. Like, if you're not killing a lot of things, you're forcing them to block, you make it where they can't block you, and then they have to answer your cards on board. Now, going into B-Rad's deck with the Megumi, getting a 4th place finish with this deck is really, really cool. I am a big believer in Megumi. Really cool to see that he is running 3 of the 2 action point Megumi. Now, in the last video I did going over some of the decks, the last player that did this, they did message below saying that they thought that this Megumi was a little clunky, and I do agree with that statement that this can be a little clunky, but the turns where you get to pop off at this Megumi are so important, and he's choosing to run 3 of this Megumi and only 2 of the Chimera Shadow Garden, which these 2 cards go hand in hand, right? I do want to touch up on these new cards just so people know what they do. This Megumi Fushiguro is 4 energy, 2 action point, 4,000 plus BP. Once per turn, when the activate main ability of a Chimera Shadow Garden on your field activates, all Megumi Fushiguro characters on your field gain 1,000 BP until the end of the turn. Which is so good, right? Making this guy and your other Megumi 5k bodies is what this deck needed to be able to get over the 5k body threshold, which was the main thing. Killing the characters, everything else like that, not a big deal. Having a character that stays on the board that gets to just block out all your characters because you can't get over that 5,000 BP mark was one of the biggest issues with this deck. And this card really is just so good because it continues on from there. When played, choose up to 1 character in your opponent's front line with BP equal to or less than 1,000 multiplied by the combined total number of Shikigami Affinity and Chimera Shadow Garden cards on your field and sideline it. So it is a kill spell and it buffs you up. Super, super strong. Even if you're not killing a 4k body with this, a lot of times if you're just killing one of the 2k bodies, because a lot of times you're not going to have more than 3 of these out in a single turn, so you're not most places going to get 4. That is living the dream to be able to pop a 4k, but popping a 3k is pretty normal. With that being said, now you're going to boost up your entire board by 1,000 for your Megumis. It's going to be really, really strong. Touching up on some of the new cards, obviously running 4 of the new Max Elephant. I think if I'd had to talk to him, he would probably agree that this card is insane. It generates energy on the front line. When played, return 1 other Shikigami Affinity card on your field to your hand. If you cannot return this to the hand, but this combos with the new Rabbit. It says when this character is returned from your hand to your field, choose up to 1 Shikigami Affinity card on your field and switch it to active. So you have the Rabbit out, you play down the Elephant comes in active, and the Elephant generates you energy, and it is a 4k body. This card is absolutely powerful. This combined with the Divine Dog Totality makes this deck super, super scary. And going through his list here, pretty generic on everything else, like 4 of your Megumis down the line from the 3-2, the 2-1, and the 0-1, but just 2 of the double energy generator, because this one is just going to let you search for your Shikigamis and generate energy on the back line, so you don't need to see this one. You see this one once, it kind of helps your energy outline enough where you don't need it outside of that. You know, with these new cards added, right, like you have to go down on something. And what is the one Shikigami that doesn't impact your board state as much? And that is going to be Nue. Nue doesn't have a trigger So he's only running one copy. Even though Nue is really, really good in the deck with being able to cycle out, you would rather just play maxed out of the elephant and the rabbit now. But I do think you want to keep your Shikigami account high. So running one of the Nue still, I think, is not a problem. But you know, I think we will see more people only running one or two of the Nue because it doesn't have a trigger, because now the deck having all these extra triggers can be up to 43, whereas before where you were maxing out on Nue, putting you down to 38 to 40 on your triggers isn't great at all. But really happy to see him do so well with this deck. Megumi is in a great spot, and I do want to see more people who, you know, if you were thinking about an aggro fun deck to play with some combo stuff going on, I do think that Megumi is one of the really fun decks that you can play. If you put the time into it, this deck won't go anywhere. Even before these new cards came out, there were a lot of Megumi, Fushiguro, one tricks out there doing really well with the deck. I think that now the deck definitely has some big legs to stand on. Once again, shout out to him for getting 4th place with this. I do not have the list for any of the 2nd and 3rd places Roy Mustang decks, but I do think throughout the other tournaments we are going to be touching up on some of these decks, so I don't want to go too crazy into it. Now, coming on here, we do have top decks games. They do have 8 players, the 3 decks that matter, top 3 here. You can see we had a green Black Clover Captain's deck top, which Tiger did that. Shout out to them. Big shout out to them, making green look good again. No surprises here with a 2nd place Roy Mustang, a 3rd place Toto. Bringing up the 4th place is going to be Yellow Full Metal Alchemist Brother kind of lean deck. That'll be an interesting one to look at too. And then I love to see it, Kurapika in a top 6. Now granted they only had 8 players, so he didn't really make the cut, but glad to see someone at least playing it and it didn't get last place. But really want to look at the captain's deck list here, and we will take a look at what they are doing with the Roy Mustang. We have already touched up on a Toto deck, so don't want to go too crazy there on that one. But shout out to these players for topping in top decks tournament of 8 players, which is really cool. So let's look at what the captain's got going on here. I love this deck. I love the captain deck. And I do think that a lot of people are, you know, kind of settling into what a lot of these deck profiles look like. You just run 4 of all the 0 drops. Now, a lot of people are, you know, on the Charmy train. And now I'm happy to see that they're doing that, because I have been a big believer of the Charmy, and I saw a lot of lists not running this card, but it is so important to have someone boosted on your board that this Charmy is not just a 0 drop late in the game who doesn't do anything, right? That she boosts up your boards, that way you can do your cool stuff with Mario Leona. For the Leopold Vermilion, I can see this card. I don't run a ton of this one in my deck because I'd rather have the double energy and some other cards, but really cool to see that they're running 4 of this, and this could be a good aggro package in the deck. Running 4 of this card along with 4 of the Yami double energy generator gives you 2 you know, really strong early attackers. 2500 BP is a nice threshold to be at, because there are a lot of cards with 2000 that are 1 drops, but not a lot of cards that are 2500, and this Leopold can be probably what, you know, gets them through the early game. And then obviously your captains rounding out the end here. I do like the 2-2 split of the Yami 5-1 drop color trigger and the Julius 3-1, because the Julius is a double trigger. I also have reverted to doing just this as well in my decks, running a 2-2 split. The hardest part in this deck is figuring out which other characters you want to run, and now they are not running the other Yami, but just choosing to max out on Charlotte and Fulgolian. Not messing around with any of the other ones. I do think that these 2 are the 2 most important ones, so, you know, maxing out on them so you see them more often is probably a good way to go. I may have to test this out and try it too. I do run 2 or 1 of the guy who lets you draw 1 and 1 of the other one and the Yami. But maybe just going with the 2 that are the best ones, right? Like just always making sure you have impact every turn. That 5k impact can be really relevant. And then obviously Charlotte at a 4 of is so important. She is super strong on the energy line, and she is strong being able to pressure your opponent during your turn with the 4k body and having her step back. But obviously the star of the show is 4 of Mario Leona Vermilion. She raids on top of herself. She does cost 7 energy, and that comes with some big power, right? Impact 1, damage 2, as long as she's raided, and the activate mana from the front line once per turn, choose 1 other character in field switch to active against 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So you bring her up, you raid her out, you play someone else out, and then you use her effect to stand them up. Now you're going to have 2 5k swinging bodies on that turn, and a lot of times they're going to have impact or some other cool stuff like the Yami. I'd love to see this person do so well with this list. Now let's check out their Riza Mustang top here for this one. Really interesting to see them go 4 of the Edward Elwick. I know that I have missed out on that one. I thought that this would maybe just be a 2 of, but I have seen more and more players running more of this Edward Elwick, and it is just because it is so good. Being able to pressure your opponent. You may add 1 card from your life area to your hand if you do switch characters active. This is your early game aggressor, giving you fuel in your hand to see the cards you need. Because sometimes in these combo-ish decks, I know this is a control deck, but it is very combo-oriented in the sense that you want to have Riza, you want to have Edward, and you want to have Roy on the same field at the same time, and cards in your hand. And this Edward is able to let you do this. Play him out, add a card from your life to your hand. He comes out active, and then you can place 2 cards from your hand into your sideline, and then give him impact, which is really, really strong too. Being able to push pressure on the games. 4 of your Raid Roy, 4 of your Reezer Hawkeye, 4 of the Color Trigger Maze, 4 of the Double Energy Generator, 3/1 Reezer Hawkeye, which is when played, if Roy Mustang's on your field, draw a card. I do think that people are sleeping on this one in particular. I've not seen this one a ton of out of 4 of, but I do think that that cycle of being able to draw cards, put them into your hand, helps you out a lot. I bet we'll see a lot more players running her out of 4 of, because this is really, really good. Only 2 of the 5k during your turn, Roy. When you have no cards in your hand, draw up to 1 more card. This card is really, really good, but some of these other cards are a little more impactful. The Edward, I could see like maybe a 3-3 split. I do think 4 of the Edward's intense, but people love it, right? It's a draw trigger in life, and clearly this person did well with it. Going down the line, they are split up a lot on the when played, lose 1,000 Roy, only 2 of that one. 2 of the active Edward Elric, gain 2 energy, 2/1. And only 1 of the nullified impact Roy Mustang, if you have no cards in your hand, gains 1,000. This one is a little bit interesting because that is only 3 small Roy targets outside of the 0 drop. Now you are going to be drawing and cycling through a lot of cards. And Riza does help you stack your deck as well. So a little bit interesting here on the ratios. This deck is just so strong, right? I think you can build it a lot of different ways and do well, because Riza and Roy do such a good job of controlling your opponent while getting value, and the deck is so powerful and consistent. I do not think that we are in a tier 0 meta by any means. Now coming on to K-Fab locals. They had 12 players, which is really nice. Glad to see that. You can see a mix-up of some blue JJK at the bottom here, red JJK, the 3 ladies in red bringing up 9th place, Briggs bringing up 8th, green SAO, blue Bleach in 6th, 2 Alphonse Edward decks bringing up 5th and 4th. And then 3rd place, a purple Kogias deck, a purple Bleach deck, and then a Full Metal Alchemist deck list. I do see the lean here, so I do want to touch on theirs. I do love how diverse their meta is. This is really cool. Big shout out to whatever shop or locals this is here. It doesn't say where they're from. Utah. So they're in Utah. I love how diverse y'all's meta is. This is really cool, seeing so many people play so many different decks in the game at y'all's locals. 3 of the brother decks is pretty cool. Very interesting to see the Full Metal Boys getting a big star of the show instead of the blue decks, right? So y'all's representation, a lot more people more excited about the yellow deck, which makes a lot of sense. But let's look at what this yellow brother deck is and what exactly the greed is doing in it. So this is just more of a straight up structure deck build with greed in it, which is a nice top end in the deck, right? Really, really cool. Just a great finisher in a deck. Any of these decks like this, right? Like he is generic. You can build around him. But like they just running for the leans for the Edward, for the Alphonse, and then running for Edward raids of each kind, and for the greed. So just using these raid characters to be able to pressure your opponent down. Really interesting list here. I like this a lot. Very nice mix up of just some really good generic powerful cards, and not worry too much about just cycling through like the brother deck likes to do. I can see this being a little bit better at probably finishing the game out. They're running 4 of the color trigger lean. Probably a lot harder in this deck to get to that 7 energy spot. We can see here going down the line they run 4 of the double energy Edward that lets you look at the top 2. 4 of your Winry. If Edward's on your front line, she generates you double energy, which is really, really good. And you can activate main switch her to resting, and then one of your characters gains 500 BP, which is really, really good. but not a ton of double energy generators, right? Just those 4 in the deck. So getting to that 7 energy in the Ling is probably not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get to the 6 energy to play out the Ling, and then whenever he goes away, you can play back out this Ling, which is really, really good, because if you're at 6 or more, you get to draw a card, which is really, really cool. Very interesting deck list here. Big shout out to them for being creative in what they're trying to do. Nice. Not much to say about this. It's a really, really cool list. Going on to the FTW store tournament, they had 8 players going through here. Blue JJK 8th place, Roy in 7th, Purple Bleach in 6th, Briggs in 5th, Red Black Clover mix-up deck in 4th, Purple Bleach in 3rd, Yellow One Punch Man in 2nd, and in 1st place they do have a blue Roy Mustang deck. Very interesting here. You know, people are sleeping on Briggs decks that they do really well. But that's gonna be the video. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. Leave the video, subscribe. Peace.